Now that we're so social, we don't need the distancing. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. They run. People are like over there, over there, over there.
It's going to be cold one. Probably not for a couple hours. So, 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Right. Left. 7. 1st, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. First. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2. Show this. 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Twin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10. 2. Circles. 2, 3. First. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, two, one, yeah. Switch. That's good. Shoulders. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. 1, 2, reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, shoulders.
So when we shift and we set down, so as we settle in this foot, that last couple of inches or last inch on the way down is not really walking the foot down. It's really more of a yield that this is landing because we're descending. And then as we press forward, the front legs kind of softens and lets you go into that position. Now when we step up with that half step and we go to this position, then we soften by relaxing this leg. And then when we go forward, as we sink, then the foot in the front settles. So this leg has to become pliable. So it kind of just forms, it seals the floor, it touches it by the opposite leg doing most of the work. So it's kind of counterintuitive. You kind of think that, well, I'm going to step up and I'm going to put this foot down, and then, but you really want to kind of make that soft landing, keep it close, and then continue downward. So it's really approaching the floor with sort of that passive action. So that helps you soften the legs. Because a lot of times it's just getting it there, and then it becomes heavy. So that doesn't help to lighten the footwork. So when we go into, say, stork flaps wings, and we're like this, then when you sink, that front foot would just fold as a function of the other leg. Actually, insert needle is the same thing. When you go like this, because you're bending down, this foot actually has to fold, but it's really, very little effort to fold, because all you're doing is releasing the joint and then you're settling into it. So you're settling like that. So we have that same problem with a lot of in the Kung Fu forms, where we go from here to here, where this has to kind of yield to that front leg, rather than go like this. That becomes a physical thing, and you're just bringing the leg back. But if you're actually sinking in the stance, you want to settle, and everything kind of molds. So if you actually are developing upper-lower coordination, then the elbows and knees should be working together. The elbows and the knees are synchronizing in the sense that they're getting that sense of release. So that helps soften the movement. It takes some practice, but part of it is your body has to recognize it. As it's a principle, it's a concept, but it's tough for the body to understand until the mind and the body kind of connect. And that concept has to be brought into the body as part of your proprioception, letting it go, spatial awareness. So that actually will help build some stability in your leg work. And then when we do, the exercise that we've done, that's like this. That actually is doing the same thing. You see how the knee kind of just folds and releases, because it's really your toe and heel relationship. So we're just learning to sort of get a feeling of floating, and the knees alternate, and it allows you to feel like softening the legs. So anytime you get a movement where you're going to have sort of like a half step forward, then you have the softening there. In the 42 movement, when you go forward, and then you have that relationship where you're softening the legs, so you're lifting, and then that helps to soften the lower part of the body. So the legs are hard to teach, because they're strong. Legs are kind of designed to hold body weight. So, to control your body weight and still be nimble on your feet takes a bit of sensitivity, feeling, and timing. So that's what we, at this stage after sequence is what we're trying to get our body to do. So between the elbows, we're doing all of this in different drills. We're doing all of this as we sing. So all of the stuff that we're doing is really learning to build the patterns, the idea of releasing tension in the joints, the idea of turning one way and then releasing. See, just that is already settling in the front. In the back, the front is just kind of touching down because it's meeting the floor based on the fact that we're sitting in the stance. So you want to sort of, so think of your legs as springs, right? What happens to a spring when you compress it? It stores energy. And then if you release it, depending on how quick or what you're pulling away to release it, it could be very fast or it could be slow, right? Because that's what a spring is. It compresses and it stores energy. If you let it go fast, boom, it springs away, releases the energy. If you let it go slowly, then you're regulating it. See, so that's what our legs are like. Our legs are like springs. So when you sit back like this and then you sit, you're storing this energy, and then when you're coming forward, you're releasing that into the front leg. So you're releasing, creating a momentum into the forward position. And then when we sit back, we're really setting up again the forward position or the turn. See. So the longer you sustain your weight on that back supporting leg, the further you can reach out. Because when you reach out, you're sliding into that low position. So it does take more strength.
So what you do is simple movements. I mean, your body has to compensate a little bit but you obviously do it. Do this.
Actually, so how much?
Because if you tighten your back, you can sink straight without any movement. That seems counterintuitive.
So what it is it's not the back, it's the ankle. It's not your hip, or it's your ankle. If the ankle doesn't release, that's what really restricts you, right? There's limits to how vertical you can stay based on your ankle. So if you're standing like this against the wall and you bend forward, your butt goes out. That compensates, right? Otherwise you'd fall on your head. You're falling. So in order to sustain that and go forward, you'd have to be very strong, holding it back, which is actually creating stiffness. So there is compensation, right? But if you're going vertically down, the only thing that can keep you vertical is the further your knees go out forward, the more vertical you'll be, right? So, the least amount of lean that you have is the best. Because the coccyx area, the tailbone, so the tailbone should be as vertical as possible, plumb. So when they say it's called milui zhongjing. Milui is the tailbone. Zhongjing is center, right? And it's called Inghao Yuan. In the Chinese, Inghao Yuan. It's like you're pushing from above, like pushing, and then the tailbone is plumb, right? So you should not be really tilting much. That's the goal. I mean, really, everybody's anatomy is slightly different. Some people have very flexible ankles. Most people don't have flexible ankles, but we don't have flexible ankles mainly because we wear shoes. And if you wear shoes with heels on them, the less flexibility your ankle will have if you've been wearing, say, like women that wear high heel shoes over an extended period of time. The Achilles actually shortens a bit. And when you stand on those type of shoes, which is probably stylistically, it's fashion, but the thing is, it's not great for your body, not great for your feet. And if you're standing on your tiptoes all the time, what happens to your calves? They contract. When the muscle's always contracted, then it's like training. So then the calf muscle becomes very tight. If the calf muscle becomes tight, then you're not going to release at the Achilles.
When I see a lot of people do the salute, they either stick the back out, stick the butt out, or they bend.
Yeah.
They very rarely sink.
So it's the same thing. Sinking and bending are two different things. You use the same parts of your body. One is releasing, one is physical. When you bend, you don't sink because your stance isn't releasing, so gravity so when you do a squat, like you do a squat, you're bending your knees and it's sustaining weight. So then you're really grounded in one instance, but you're using these muscles. When you release, you're using the same muscles, but you feel like you're settling. And settling, when you release, lowers your center of gravity. It makes your center of gravity feel lower, and it lets your upper body feel more relaxed. Now, what you're talking about is the guys that go like this, right? So this part of that's for a look, but part of it is because they go low, they really can't sustain their position. So you have to do a little bit of it. When you go really low, you do have to tilt forward. But in Tai Chi, we don't go that low. We want to stay as vertical as we can and release as much as you can. Because there is a limit to what your ankle can go as an angular position. Downward postures applies the same, but it's tied in the hips. So people that have very flexible ankles, they can go really low, and when they go down, they can go way, way down, and this continues to go forward. But it only goes forward to a limit, because sometimes then they end up starting tilting like this, but they sustain their body like this. And then they extend that leg out. So there's a limit to what the ankle will do, but the thing is, that's really takes some strength and flexibility. So really, your ankle and your hip really play that role, and then the knee has to go in between. So, but we can still stay this vertical with some ankle working. So that's really, we don't in this we don't go as deep as low as a lot of it, other than the downward posture. But we should be at least aware that our ankle should release, because I think that is another phase of getting into your stance. So between bending your knee and folding the ankle and standing are the two, balances in your feet. So that's why when you watch really skillful people doing Tai Chi, especially performers, or, they have tremendous leg strength, especially in the downward posture, the flexibility. Now, when you see people that go way, way down there, they're like that much off the ground, their flexibility is much, much more than the average person. They do splits and they would be holding the leg up to the ear over here. So if you can do a split like that, what's doing a kick like that, right? If you can bring your leg up to there, it's not even effort to hold your leg up this high. So that's the difference. But if your stretch is this high, then it's an effort to hold it up this high. You see, it's kind of relative to your position. So everything is really becomes down to your anatomy too. So some people have great flexibility, some people are stiffer. And then age related, there's some differences too. If you start later, it's harder to do. You start younger, it's much easier to maintain. So those are all some of the obstacles, we have to overcome trying to succeed. But the thing is, what's most important, I think, is the mind-body relation and the cognitive side of learning, because the physical side of learning is where you build your neurons, you build the brain matrix, the brain plasticity all comes from there. And then your body just has to work trying to keep up with what you're trying to tell it to do. So that's something that we should bear in mind when all those half-step movements require that softness, right? Anytime you go even backwards, you want to merge your feet. So then you continue backwards. So these are concept and principles. So every class, try to get some message across when it comes to theory and principle. So let's move to the 42 movement. And it's just more of the same, that sequence. So we start off, we open the form, and we step. We don't step. We just press down to begin. Now we settle, then we shift and turn. Open the stance, forward, shift, hold the ball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Turn. Sink. 1, 2. Brush knee. So this is where we soften the legs if we can. Back fist. Turn. Stroke down. Settle and push. Turn. Square the body and push. Over the top. Turn and punch. Leopard and tiger, springs to mountain. Open and close. Right there is actually one of those. When you open and then close, you see the leg just kind of yields to that. And that's really transferring your weight so that you can set up to do the next step. Then your parallel stance, repulse the monkey, right? Sink, press. Turn, down, then your heel kicks. Squat down, punch, step up, kick, toe, there's a toe kick, 2 punch to the ear, toe kick again, turn, slap, slap kick, punch down, step up, diagonal flying, downward posture, golden cockerel, thrust out, turn, lift up, shoulder stroke, turn, elbow, shoulder stroke, down, cross hand, press down, downward posture, 7-star, ride the tiger, double lotus, draw bow to shoot tiger, grasp the sparrow's tail, so deep breathing. So everything is divided into sections. So when we say the hands and legs, we means upper and lower, right? And then the torso is, the connecting segment. So, everything is kind of divided into sections. Even when you go to the supermarket and you buy a chicken, roast chicken, they say you want the upper part or the lower part. 上装, ha装. Ha zhong is your legs. Xiang zhong is the upper, the wings, the chicken. So we're the same thing, with the legs and the wings. Stork flaps wings, your legs. So your legs are very important when we do Tai Chi. So they always say your hands and the legs have to be coordinated, upper lower coordination. So they have to build that relationship. So relationship is, solid and empty. When one moves here, the other side has to move on the above. So we have strum the lute, we have legs, and then we have to coordinate it so that when you sink your elbow, you sink your knees. When you sink your elbow, you sink your knees. Right. So that's a concept, and you have to keep it in mind. So when you build stability, that's what you're doing. Now, Tai Chi is actually a martial art, but a lot of that influence has been taken away because people do it as a health exercise. But strum the lute is on guard. That's your on guard position. So when you're here, the reason why you're like that is because if Rob brings a punch to the center, your hand is doing this. So my body is like this. You're not going to stop it like this, because if he punches and I go like this, that's going to come through. So what you have to do is you do this, because this becomes a deflection. Now whether you do this or do this is really part of the thing. So even though we're doing this hand has an option to go to either side. See, so the hand, if he comes in, this hand is also strum the lute. See, so the hand can be like this. Now, when we settle and you sink your elbow, that gives you the stability to absorb the force if it's coming in, but it's being deflected so it doesn't really come through. So the settling roots you, gives you a position. If I did this and I went to brush knee, that would be the next movement. See? That's how brush knee works. Because you're really, when we go like this, they're really passing to strum the lute. You're going to this position, and then you're here. So those are two separate postures, but if I use this movement, that's actually passing through first this, that's neutral, this is this, and this is this. So this is the brushing of the knee, but it's also your covering hand. For snake six out tongue, it turns into this. So that's why your hands and the legs have to be coordinated so that you're working together. So that's what brush, knee, and push is. Form the fist and punch. Say this is parry, right? Parry and punch. So the parry is a back fist. This is a parry. You can actually, you go like this. This is a parry. This is a punch. When I punch, if you punch again, this is leopard and tiger springs to mountain. So it depends on how you're interpreting and exchanging the two sides. Now, if his hand is here, and he punches again, there's your position, see? So this becomes that. That's why usually when you punch, regardless of which form it is, you have this movement that goes like this. That's sort of removing and changing sides. So if this is the dominant side here, this is the switching, and then you open it up. If it was on the other side, this would be on the outside. See, so the ideas are already built into the movement. It's whether you interpret it. So when you're doing the forms, you say, well, where, sort of referencing your body, where do your hand movements go? Well, we have shoulder level, eye level, and waist level. Waist level is where the brush knee is. Middle level or middle gate is the strum the lutes type of thing. Cross the hands, leopard and tiger springs to a mountain. Then upper is jade lady work, shuttle, fan to the back. Insert needle is going down. So those are giving you directions of movements, but every direction movement is a force going in a direction. So movements are actually forces or vectors going in a direction. Fan to the back is this. Parry and punch is going downward. Raising the hand is lifting. Stalk flag swing is turning. You know, when you're turning like this, you're moving, but you're not just bending from the waist. You're moving in a direction. So when we do this, we're moving in a direction, right? The direction, depending on which hand is being the interceptor. If I take Bob's arm like this, and it comes to here, this is my movement, you see. So the movement is here, right? When you go down like this, see, you're bending. But you can also do this. Right, you can do that. And you can also go down and pull the leg or whatever, you know, so that's what that bending is. And you're going to, when you're going like this, the hand is moving this way. You're going like this, is moving this way. So, you know, that's why we do all these drills. So even our warm-ups actually are functional. You're developing a motion, and movements have techniques, but it's also has to be correct relative to your space. Because if we're doing this, we can't do it out there. We have to do it relative to our body. So when I do this, or I do this, it's really... Now if I did this, right, then the hand goes up, you can imagine this. See? Right? So this would go on the way up. See? Yeah. Yeah, once you go up, then it's down. So that's the other way. So when the hand goes like this, that's down, that's up. See? So that's why every movement is actually going in a direction. And the reason why you see this is because you're really focusing and making a fist, and you're striking with that. Now on the downside, you can pull, right? You grab and you pull, and then you pull. So that's why every movement is really a direction of motion. So when you grab, like when we're in downward posture, and we go like this is an extension of this as we move up. And that's really coming up with the kick. So this just give you an idea that there is relative space when you move. When we're doing a shoulder stroke or we're doing this, like in the chin style, this is the thrust. This is a thrust. So all of these actually a little bit more, those are easy to interpret. Something like this is maybe a little bit difficult to interpret. You're stroking with this. This one's easy, you're punching. This one is diverting. Well, this is, in the hand positions, how this is here and this is here is really setting up a scenario in one instance, in one way, but then at the same time, the spacing between the hands are sort of predetermined as to what that gap is in the length. So if I'm here, the alignment of this hand has to do with the alignment of what you're attaching to. So it's usually the wrist and the elbow. See what I mean? Like the wrist and the elbow, you want to, I'll borrow his arm again. So when I go like this, it's the wrist and elbow, you see. So my hand is like this. So I can go like this or this. Those are the two things that you would do. This, and you compensate. So you see how I compensate? Because if I go in one direction, then I lose my rooting. If I go like this, or I go like this, then you can see that I'm here. And then if I'm going to shift, I actually have to move, to counterbalance the motion. So while you're doing it in the form, your counterbalancing becomes innate. It becomes something your body responds to. So that's part of building sensitivity and awareness of body form and functionality, because you always have to be in balance. That's what when we first started talking, it was about yin and yang, So balance in motion, balance in breath, balance in inside and outside, and a balance in your system. I think it was yesterday we said, what's the definition of good health, right? Definition of good health. We have a few different people here, so what defines being healthy? Good exercise, a lot of exercise. Everybody was talking about exercise. What's the interpretation or the meaning of being healthy? Movement, yeah. Movement helps. The definition of being healthy is that your major organs are working and functioning the way they're supposed to. Because if one of those are not working right, then you're going to have an imbalance in the body, but it's not, it's lacking. So a healthy person is actually not just in shape. You could be in perfect shape on the outside, but on the inside, you could be, not doing very well. So that's the important thing, is balance in your organs, the 5 essential organs. That's what most of the, the 5 elements, also the 5 organs, and, so your heart, your liver, your lung, your kidneys, liver, all of those have to be working properly. Otherwise, you have to take a supplement or you have to take a medication to balance that. So, but you need circulation that satisfies all the needs of those organs, because if you don't satisfy the needs, it doesn't get the nutrients, it doesn't get the oxygen, it doesn't get all of that stuff that helps it function properly. So that's why when we do our movements, not only is it a physical thing, you're tying it to your breath, you're tying it to your movement and integration, and that actually strengthens this, which actually needs the circulation as well, the nutrients. All right, ready? We're going to bow. Hup. Okay, how you feeling?